Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Kevin, a 29-year-old marketing executive passionate about helping people recognize and escape manipulative relationships. If love is blind, I was practically stumbling around in pitch darkness when I married my college sweetheart, David Foster, 3 years ago. On the surface, everything was perfect. David's booming law career, our beautiful suburban home, and dreams of starting a family. But lurking behind the picturesque facade was a storm named Amy Foster, my mother-in-law. "Darling, the centerpiece you chose for Sunday dinner was interesting," Amy would comment, her wine glass poised elegantly. "But I suppose that's what one might expect from someone with your background." Her words dripped with saccharine malice, leaving me speechless every time. Amy wasn't just any mother-in-law, she was the self-appointed queen of the Foster empire. As the head of the Foster Family Foundation, a legacy left by David's late father, Amy wielded her influence like a weapon. She boasted about pulling strings at David's law firm, casually remarking at dinner, "It's so fortunate Harrison and Mills values family connections, wouldn't you agree, David?" Her power was unshakable, and she made sure everyone knew it. Sunday dinners at the Foster mansion were nothing short of a theatrical tragedy. Amy's sister, Margaret, nodded along to everything like a dutiful puppet, while cousin Emma performed her weekly routine of fishing for Amy's approval. "Amanda, have you thought about freezing your eggs?" Emma asked last Sunday, her fox concern barely masking Amy's real agenda. "Aunt Amy mentioned you're focusing an awful lot on your career." I tried everything to keep the peace. I attended Amy's endless charity events, skipped promotions to prioritize David's career, and hosted countless stifling social gatherings. "Your place is here, supporting David," Amy would remind me. "The Foster name carries responsibilities." Then, last week, I came home to find my living room completely rearranged. "I let myself in," Amy said nonchalantly when I confronted her. The furniture arrangement was giving the wrong impression to our social circle. She had made herself a spare key without permission. That was my breaking point. "Mom, you can't just change our house without asking," David protested weakly. "Darling, I know what's best," she replied with a wave of her hand. "Now, when are you two planning to give me grandchildren? The Foster legacy won't continue itself." As I stared at the spare key, it hit me. This wasn't just meddling, it was control. Every interaction, every gesture of help came with strings attached. The cracks in our perfect life were widening, and the web Amy had spun around us tightened with every passing day. The night of the Foster Family Foundation Gala was when everything came to a head. I'd been ignoring chest pains for weeks, pushing through the stress. But that evening, it all caught up to me. As I stood in the bathroom, struggling to breathe, Amy walked in. "For heaven's sake, Amanda, get up," she snapped. "The Vandermeers just arrived, and I won't have you embarrassing us with this theatrical display." "Amy, please," I begged. "I think I need to go to the hospital. Something's really wrong." She narrowed her eyes. What perfect timing. Just as we're about to announce David's nomination for partner. "Always making everything about you, aren't you?" I clutched the sink for support, the room spinning around me. David found us moments later, concern flickering in his eyes. "Honey," he looked pale. "Maybe we should." "David, darling," Amy interrupted smoothly, "you know how crucial tonight is for your career. If you leave now, well, I hate to explain your absence to the board. They're quite particular about family commitment." I could barely breathe, but David hesitated. "Mom's right," he said softly. "Let's just get through the next few hours. You can rest tomorrow." 2 hours later, I was still standing, forced smiles plastered on my face as Amy paraded us before donors. Her nails dug into my shoulder as she gushed about Foster family values, oblivious to my growing agony. Margaret shuffled nervously nearby, muttering about discrepancies in the donation books. "Everything all right, Margaret?" Amy asked, her tone sharp. "Oh yes, of course," Margaret stammered, but the tension was palpable. By the end of the night, I was on the verge of collapse. Someone commented, "Such a lovely couple, though your daughter-in-law seems rather quiet tonight." "Oh, she's just being dramatic, aren't you, Dieter?" Amy's voice echoed as the last thing I remembered before everything went black. I was walking to the car, David arguing with her about leaving early. "The Hendersons haven't even made their pledge yet," she snapped, dismissing my condition entirely. When I woke up, the harsh brightness of hospital lights greeted me, accompanied by the steady beep of machines. A doctor stood beside my bed, her expression grim as she reviewed my chart. "Mrs. Kevin, you experienced a severe cardiac event," she said, her tone grave. "The delay in treatment could have been fatal. Why didn't you come in sooner?" I turned to David, whose face had turned ghostly white. Amy lingered in the doorway, for once without a quick retort or an excuse. The doctor continued, "Your EKG shows significant stress-induced angina. Have you been under unusual stress recently?" I couldn't help but laugh, though the effort sent the monitor into a flurry of beeps. "Stress?" I said weakly. "They have no idea." But they were about to find out. 3 days into my hospital stay, David left his phone with me while he went to grab coffee. It started buzzing almost immediately. At first, I ignored it, but when the messages kept coming, I glanced at the screen. My hands shook as I scrolled through the text between David and Amy. "Claire looked lovely at the office today, didn't she? Such a shame things ended between you two. She's single again, no, one read. Make sure you're at Morton's for lunch tomorrow. Claire mentioned she'll be there with the Anderson case team," said another. And then I found it, messages about a private investigator. "Found some interesting things about her father's business troubles," Amy wrote. "And that cousin with the DUI. Perfect ammunition." David's replies weren't outright complicit, but they weren't stopping her either. A weak mom, please, here and there. No more than that. I was still processing this betrayal when my phone buzzed with a message from Rachel, David's estranged sister. "I heard what happened. Can I come see you?" An hour later, Rachel sat by my hospital bed, tears streaming down her face. She told everyone Paul was a gambling addict, said he was stealing school funds. "It was all lies," she sobbed. "By the time we cleared his name, the damage was done. No one from the family even came to our daughter's christening." "Manipulative by," I began, but our phones buzzed simultaneously, cutting me off. Emma had just posted several videos to the family group chat. "OMG, wrong chat, wrong chat," she frantically typed, but it was too late. We all watched in horror and vindication as years of Amy's cruelty played out on screen. There she was, dismissing my chest pains, threatening David's career, mocking Rachel's husband, and scheming behind the scenes. "Remember when she said I was imagining things?" Rachel whispered. Margaret called next, her voice shaky. "Amanda, I need to talk to you about the Foundation's books." When David returned and saw his phone in my hand, he turned pale. "I can explain." "The videos explain enough," I said quietly. "Either you stand with me, or you stand with her. No more middle ground." David broke down, guilt washing over him. "I'm so sorry. I've started seeing a therapist. I can't believe I let her." Later that evening, he called Amy with me beside him. I put the call on speaker. "How dare you question my methods?" Amy's voice was cold, sharp. "Everything I've done has been for this family's reputation. Should I remind the firm about Amanda's father's bankruptcy? Or perhaps let slip about that college incident my investigator uncovered?" "You're investigating my wife?" David's voice cracked. "Oh, darling," Amy replied smoothly. "I've been protecting you from her kind since day one. Now are you going to fall in line, or do I need to make some calls?" David looked at me, then back at his phone. For the first time in our marriage, I saw real resolve in his eyes. "Go ahead, Mother. Make your calls. But first, check the family group chat." Emma had quite a lot to share. Amy was all fake smiles and poise at the emergency family meeting, her designer suit impeccable. "I'd like to apologize for any misunderstandings," she began, her tone dripping with insincerity. "We all say things in the heat of the moment." "Save it," I interrupted, slapping a thick folder onto the table. "Margaret, would you like to explain these financial records?" Margaret stood, her hands trembling. "The Foundation's money, it wasn't all going to charity," she confessed. "Private investigators, payoffs, fake positions for Claire at the firm." Amy's composure cracked. "How dare you go through private documents?" she sputtered. "Private? Like the investigator's report on my father?" I shot back. "Or the money you paid Claire to pursue David?" The board meeting that followed was nothing short of poetic justice. Rachel's anonymous tip had prompted an exhaustive audit of the Foundation's records. With every revelation, Amy's complexion grew paler, her mask of control slipping further. $50,000 to discredit a kindergarten teacher, one incredulous board member asked. Rachel leaned forward, her voice steady. That's what she spent to try and destroy my husband and me. 2 weeks later, the headlines delivered their own brand of satisfaction. Prominent socialite charged with embezzlement. David's firm wasted no time severing ties with the scandal. His boss even said, "We're announcing your partnership early, David." As for Claire, she accepted a quiet reassignment to their Seattle office. Her ambitions no longer aligned with Amy's schemes. The social fallout was swift and merciless. Emma's videos went viral, circulating whispers of Amy's cruel behavior. "Did you see how she treated her daughters-in-law?" became a recurring refrain in social circles that once idolized her. Margaret, now visibly freer, shared coffee with Rachel one afternoon. "I'm so sorry," she admitted. "I've started therapy. I should have spoken up years ago." Under Rachel's leadership, the foundation found new purpose. Our first major act, a scholarship program for teachers, a pointed yet uplifting dig at Amy's elitism. David and I moved across town to a house filled with light and laughter, new phone numbers, a fresh start. Therapy wasn't easy, but it was worth every hard conversation. "She can't hurt us anymore," I assured David one day during a session. "Sometimes I still expect her to show up," he admitted, his voice soft. 2 years passed, bringing growth and closure. My consulting firm now specializes in helping women escape toxic family dynamics, a journey of empowerment that resonates deeply with my own. Yesterday at Whole Foods, I spotted Amy. Her designer clothes were replaced with off-the-rack substitutes, her once commanding presence dulled. She pushed a cart alone, her eyes darting around nervously. Our gazes met briefly. She hesitated, reaching for her phone, then stopped, likely remembering that she no longer had our numbers. I turned away, heading back to my office where my assistant greeted me. "Your next client is here, Mrs. Kevin." "Coming," I replied, pausing to straighten the plaque on my desk. Its inscription read, "Helping women find freedom." Amy's shadow no longer looms over my life, though I know she thinks of me often. Each empty Sunday dinner, each article praising the foundation's success under Rachel, each reminder of the control she lost, it must sting. People often say forgiveness sets you free. I've learned that sometimes walking away and thriving is the best revenge. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have left the gala despite knowing the potential fallout? Or would you have stayed silent, sacrificing your health to keep the peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from others who face similar battles between well-being and toxic family pressure.